Okay, welcome to the Johannesburg Championship. This is round 4 that we're showing here. There was an upset with round 2 that didn't want to be recorded. Round 1 happened very quickly, and round 3 I didn't want to be recorded either. It seems that people from my first set don't really want to be recorded, but this is a match between Viktor and Raymond. Viktor is on the right and Raymond is on the left. Flipped, Raymond gets to go first, both Zekroms. Viktor has a Tippig on his bench and Raymond has a Reshram on his bench. Raymond plays a Cherin and draws 3 cards and then puts a Mareep down. And then starts off with an Outrage. Outrage does 20 damage plus how much damage is on Zekrom. They're actually busy trying to calculate now, like it's an outrage situation, and who would die if you outrage all the time. It actually works out that the first person that gets damage actually wins, and the first person that does damage gets death, because the first one does 20 damage, does 40 damage back, 60 damage back to the one that has 20 damage, totaling 80, and then 80 damage outrage does 100 damage back to the person who has 40, 140 health, 130 health, 140 damage, knocked out Zekrom, and that's how you have it. Viktor's playing Pokemon Communication. He threw out LGM to do that communication. Found a Reshram, put him on his bench. Obviously both players wanting to set up as soon as they possibly can. They both have their little strategies. Viktor's deck on the day was doing lots of Zekrom and Reshrams with an M-Ball to put out lots of energy at a time. But he also had a couple of Super Scoops to scoop up his damaged Zekroms and Reshrams so that he can use them again. Then with M-Ball's ability of Flaming Flamingo, I think it's called, to put as many fire energies as you can, does quite a lot of help with Super Scoop. So Viktor outrages back with the 40. So let's see how this goes, because it should end up in Raymond's Zekrom dying, as Raymond does another Cherin to draw 3 more cards. Raymond likes to go through his deck quickly. He's got a Fire Lightning deck. What he likes to do is he's got some Reshrams and Zekroms in there, but his main power from the deck comes from his Typhlosions and his Ampharuses. His Typhlosions, he's got a few Typhlosions. I think he's got 2 Typhlosion Primes, which does an Afterburner, which gets some damage from the deck. There was an outrage there for 60, so now it's up to Viktor to just outrage for 100 once he's done with his turn, and you have 1 knocked out Zekrom. Like I was saying, Raymond uses his Typhlosion to do his Afterburner to get fire energy out of his discard, and then his Ampharus, he's got an Ampharus Prime which does 10 damage to the opponent's Pokemon every time that he adds energy. Viktor's going to have to look out for that one in this game, because he's going to add a lot of energy at a time. Viktor just passed. Viktor chose not to knock out Zekrom. That is very weird. I don't understand that, but maybe he's got some other strategy in mind. He doesn't want to do that. But if now if Zekrom does 60 damage back to him, then his Zekrom's going to be knocked out. So the thing I was saying about the first Zekrom or the first outrage to do damage will get killed first is not going to happen in this round unless Viktor has something else that he's waiting to do. I'm not quite sure what's going to go on there. But yeah, the Ampharus's Prime that Raymond's got, it does 10 damage to the opponent for each time that they add energy, which is quite astounding. So Raymond's done an outrage here for another 60, and they have not knocked out that Zekrom. That is an error. There's 140 damage there. If you look at Viktor's damage counters, the blue ones are 50 and the white ones are 10. Now he just takes off 150 damage because he played Super Scoop to get the Zekrom back into his hand and put out the Reshram. Now this would be fine, but that Zekrom was actually knocked out. It's a little error. I don't think Viktor was actually doing it intentionally. I'm sure it was just a mistake, not seeing the 2 damage counters on the card and then the 12 damage counters off the card. Sometimes it's actually better to just keep all the damage counters on the card and to use even the little paper ones that come out with the theme decks, or dice, so you can keep an actual count. Viktor's counters seem to be big and chunky and moved off. Maybe that's the result. The counters don't scratch the card. There we go. There's the Empress Prime, the first one for Raymond. Now what happens is every time his opponent, Viktor, places an energy onto a Pokemon, he gets a 1 damage counter, which is 10 damage, put onto his Pokemon. They're discussing there, Viktor saying, doesn't it do it to you? And he's like, nope, it doesn't do it to me, it only does it to you. If you read the actual wording, it says, whenever the opponent attaches an energy card from his or her hand to one of his or her Pokemon, put 1 damage counter on that Pokemon. There's another outrage for 60, so there's still outrage wars happening. Raymond should be on 5 prizes, but let's see how the game turns out. There's nothing we can do about it now. So the Empress is actually pretty awesome to just leave on your bench. It also has a lightning crash attack, but nobody really uses it. They just power it up to be on the attack. The difference in it, and we need to be careful about this, is that it places 1 damage counter. So things that prevent damage don't prevent placing 1 damage counter. It's a little difference in the rules. When you do damage, you're doing actual damage. Okay, yeah, something funny. It looked as if Viktor played a Professor Juniper and discards his cards, but he was actually playing an N. An N, he's supposed to shuffle his hand into his deck, discard the N, and then draw as many cards as he has prizes. But he discarded his whole hand, and then he had to reverse it, and then he reversed it and put the N back into his deck, and then he had to take his N out. That's actually pretty funny. But everything is sorted now. I remember that the judge came around, judge being me, and just made sure that everything happened okay there. So they all end properly. So they've both got a new hand of 6 cards each. End's quite powerful when you use it towards the end of the game. Another Typic goes down onto the table. Because when you use N towards the end of the game and you're losing, your opponent only draws 2 or 1 card, because that's how many prizes they have. And you just draw 6 or 5, depending on how much you're losing by. There's another evolution. Cyndaquil gets evolved into Quilava. Raymond back on his quest to get out his Typhlosions, which is part of his setup. There's another Mareep. And a Professor Oak's new theory. Raymond's obviously not happy with his hand, so he wants to swap it out. Get 6 new cards. Professor Oak's new theory shuffles your hand back into your deck, and then you draw 6 cards. It's quite nice if you've got 6 cards to not go through your deck too quickly, and also nice if you don't have 6 cards and you want an extra 6 cards and you play that awesome supporter. There's another Cyndaquil. You see Raymond's playing his supporters and he's leaving it out next to his active Pokemon. Reason being is because you're only allowed to play 1 supporter a turn, so he's trying to remember that he's played a supporter that turn. There's another outrage for 60 damage. Now that Reshram's sitting with 120 damage counters on it. So it's 10 away from dying, but now it can do the most damage that it possibly can do. Its outrage now does 140 damage, as opposed to its blue flare, which does 120 damage. So it's quite powerful. It can actually knock out any Pokemon on Raymond's side. And he's got a Pokemon catcher, so now he can actually choose which Pokemon, and he chooses the Reshiram that has no damage on it and 3 energy, and this is going to be 1 knocked out Reshiram. It's going to be quite a hit for Raymond on that side. And let's see how... Oh, there's a bit of a discussion. No, you don't get 120 damage, you actually get 140. That's knocked out. Prize for Viktor, first prize of the game. Well, first taken prize. And Raymond puts up his damaged Zekrom again. That damaged Zekrom's got 40 damage counters on it, so it outrage does 60, which should easily take out the Reshiram that only needs another 10. Raymond puts an energy on Quilava, and then plays another Mareep, and then does another Professor Oak's new theory. Those are some very nice cards. I know Raymond runs some rare candies and a lot of Professor Oak's new theories, which makes his deck quite nice. You can get through and evolve those Pokemon, because both of his Pokemon that he really uses in his deck are stage 2, so he needs to get to those stage 2 as fast as possible. The Reshirams and the Zekroms are just really there to damage out, to put out damage. There's a rare candy. The Rare Candy is quite a lovely card. Let me just find the text. The Rare Candy chooses one of your basic Pokemon in play, and if you put a stage 1, if you have a stage 1 or stage 2 card, it evolves that Pokemon in your hand. Put that card on the basic Pokemon. There's an Afterburner. So what he's done is he's evolved his Cyndaquil straight to a Typhlosion Prime. The Typhlosion Prime's got a Poke Power, which is Afterburner. Once during your turn, you may search your discard pile for a Fire Energy card and attach that to one of your Pokemon. If you do, you have to put 1 damage counter. There Raymond's putting another double colorless, but he's already put a Lightning Afterburnered. He should not have put that double colorless on that Ampharos. See, it's very important to remain focused, not to get nervous about winning or losing in this game. You need to remain focused so that you don't make small errors like that. If they had a dedicated judge watching their table, obviously it would be corrected, but they don't. So Viktor does another Cherin. But back to Afterburner, it's quite nice, but you can add extra energies to your Pokemon, boost them up with 1 energy a turn, but you do give it 1 damage. So Raymond's very lucky that Ampharos's Pokebody connectivity doesn't do damage to him and the Afterburner. So Viktor's putting down an energy, putting down the damage counter, and passing his turn. So Ampharos's connectivity is whenever the opponent attaches energy from his hand to his Pokemon, put 1 damage counter. Raymond's adding another Fire Energy, retreating his Zekrom again. Zekrom seems to be bouncing from active to bench quite a lot. And then with his non-prime Typhlosion, he does Fire Spin. Fire Spin does 120 damage and discards 2 energies from... Oh no, he's not. Okay. Well, the non-prime Typhlosion is out there. And yes, he is going to do Fire Spin. He's going to discard 2 energies and do 120 damage. See, now the conductivity gave Zekrom 1 damage counter, and then his Fire Spin can knock him out for 120 because Zekrom's only got 130 health. So the connectivity is actually coming out quite handy. Raymond's deck is fully set up. He's got his Typhlosion Prime, he's got his Ampharos Prime. So the prime part of Ampharos and Typhlosion just means that it's the super rare one with the Poke Bodies and Poke abilities. Viktor's got his he's going to play First Contact now with his Algem. Algem's got First Contact, which can search for 2 basic Pokemon, no flip required, out of his deck, and then place them on the bench. Viktor actually does need some cards on the bench. He's got a Tipig there. He's got a Pignite, and all he needs to do is find his Emboar. He can't search for his Emboar because it's 2 basic Pokemon. But let's see which 2 basic Pokemon he gets to beef up his side. With Raymond really set up, he needs to do something to catch up. Raymond's got 4 prizes left, and Viktor's got 5. So there is a Reshiram EX, nice card to put on your bench, and a Victini, and it's a Victory Star Victini. The Reshiram EX has got some heavy attacks, and obviously being an EX, it's got 180 hit points, but gives the opponent 2 prizes. Raymond's busy putting a Fire Energy on Zekrom and the damage because he's doing Afterburner, and then he evolves there with a non-prime Ampharos, and he plays Interviewer's Questions. Very nice card. Interviewer's Question draws 8 cards from his deck, and every single energy there, special or non-special or basic, he may put into his hand. He has to show his opponent what he is putting in his hand though. So I only drew 1 energy, which is not that great. There he does the attack of Magma Punch because that LGM had a damage counter from putting energy connectivity again, and only needed to do 50 damage, and Mega Punch does 50 damage with 1 fire and 1 colorless. So that non-Typhlosion Prime is actually doing quite a lot of damage. Here comes Zekrom EX. Is he going to go up? Zekrom EX has 2 attacks. Glinting Claw, which does 50 plus a flip of a coin, which will do another 30. That's why the Victini is there, to reflip that attack coin for the first time if it does not get heads. There goes an Everlight onto Reshiram EX, making Reshiram even harder to knock out. Reshiram's also got a Brave Fire, which does 150 damage for 2 fire and 2 colorless. But you have to flip a coin, and if it's tails, it does 50 damage to itself. There again, Victini will help out in stopping that damage from coming to Reshiram EX. So Reshiram EX is doing quite a lot there. The Victini's Victory Star ability is, once during your turn, after you flip any coins for an attack, you may ignore all the effects of those coins and begin flipping those coins again. You cannot use one Victory Star ability more than one ability each turn. So even if you have 2 Victinis, you can't really do anything. Viktor just passes. He had energy. I don't know why he didn't put it down. So throwing up your big EX with a Everlight, there's not really much that there isn't anything on Raymond's hand that can KO that EX one shot. But Raymond just sets up some more, does another Afterburner, places another Fire Energy, and he does another Fire Spin for 120. Because of the Everlight, it only does 100, so there's Viktor's 250 damage counters to indicate that Reshiram EX has got 100. He does another Pokemon Communication with another LGM that he had in his hand. I'm sure he's going for an M-Ball. There we go. There's the M-Ball. And now we have M-Ball sitting there with his ability, Inferno Fandango. That's what it's called. And as often as you like during your turn, you may attach a Fire Energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. So you can do that to... And here comes the Super Scoop. Oh, Super Scoop heads. Viktor got a heads on a Super Scoop, so that 100 damage on Reshiram EX just goes away. He puts up Victini. Super Scoop is a brilliant card. You flip a coin, and if heads, then you can remove, you can pick up a card or Pokemon, and all the cards attached to it, and put it into your hand. So that means that the damage just flies away, and he can put back down Reshiram EX, and then with Inferno Fandango, he can put as many Fire Energy back onto that Pokemon. It's quite a very good strategy, especially because it'll save those EXs and it'll stop them from dying very, very soon. I mean, if that EX only had 80 hit points left, obviously with the Everlight it would be 100 damage that needed to be done. But that was actually pretty good. A Lightning Energy on Victini. No damage done by conductivity. I think I remember I corrected that. And then there comes 4 energy on Reshiram EX, but then he gets another 40 damage for connectivity. So, okay, there we go. There, yeah, I do remember correcting that. So that Victini needs to have another damage on it because it attached an energy and then removed it to retreat. Still the attachment was there, so it needs to get it. So here comes Viktor's plan. It's working out quite well. He's flipping a coin. I'm not too sure if he's using Glinting Claw or Brave Fire. That Typhlosion needed 150 damage. It couldn't have just died with not being knocked out with 50. So he did do Brave Fire. The head stops him from getting any damage. So that's why the flip was there. But obviously he's got his Fliptini, as some people call it. So he can reflip that even if it's not a favorable one. So he's got about a 75% chance of getting a favorable result out of flipping a coin now because of Victini. Raymond's busy deciding which Pokemon he wants to bring up next. He chooses the damaged Zekrom. Zekrom's got 60 damage on it, so Outrage right now can do 80 damage. Applies a Lightning Energy onto Ampharos Prime. It's very easy to just define which one's got the connectivity ability and which one doesn't. Ampharos Prime does, Ampharos by itself doesn't. There's an Afterburner from Typhlosion Prime, and he needs to get another energy. I think he's forgotten. No, there we go. He needs to put another energy. Done. So that's 70 damage, and now Zekrom can do an Outrage of 90 damage. That's Fire Energy on him, so he can't do his Bolt Strike because there's no Lightning Energy on him. So Outrage is all he can do up to 90. Which won't kill Reshiram EX, but it'll put him in a very, very dangerous pot. Because 90 plus those 40 there, he's only put 60 on. He's supposed to put 90. Hopefully he's corrected it to 70. So they've actually missed the calculation that it's 20 plus how much damage. So they've only done 70 damage and not 90 to Reshiram EX. That's quite a difference because now it's only got 110, which means it needs 70 health. Whereas, oh, that was another super scoop to try and get rid of all that health, and that would have been awesome if Viktor got heads there, because then the Reshiram EX would have just come back into his hand and 110 damage gone away. So there's 20 damage missing from Reshiram EX. That could actually, that could affect the decisions quite much. Viktor puts down a Buffalant. Because if it was 90 damage, then that Reshiram EX would be 50 damage away from death. And its Brave Fire does 50 damage to itself. So I can't remember what he's doing here. It's a Tails. He reflips with Victini. Obviously he doesn't want it, so he is doing Brave Fire. And he gets Tails again. No, he was doing Glinting Claw because all that Zekrom needed was another 80 damage and it would have been knocked out. So he only did 50. Raymond just picked up 50 and put it on Zekrom. So that was very, very bad flipping. Viktor got the 25%, very unlucky there, because he even got a reflip with Victini. There's another fire energy from Raymond. And Raymond looks to be quite set to... There we go. And knocking out Reshiram EX with another Outrage. If that Super Scoop had actually worked, then we would have a different game on our hands. Let me just play the background music again. Okay, so Viktor's still there. He's put up M-Ball back up into active position. I can't see what he's drawn. He's just drawn a lightning energy and not too sure what that is. Viktor's in a bit of a tight spot here. When an EX goes and the other person gets to draw 2 cards, it's actually quite a knock to your system. Raymond's only got 1 card, and if they had counted that knockout in the beginning, Raymond would have already won. But Viktor's only got 4 cards. He doesn't have a setup. You know, Raymond's sitting there with his Typhlosion Prime, his Ampharos Prime. He's actually quite set up. Typhlosion's got a couple of energies on it. Typhlosion Prime has got a different attack to normal Typhlosion. It's a Flare Destroy for 70 damage. So he's ready to do that as well. So let's see how this goes. That M-Ball there has got 150 hit points. So it's going to be actually quite difficult to knock it out. It's going to take a couple of Outrages. Well, 2 Outrages at least. At most. At least. Let's see what happens, because unless Viktor draws a good supporter to refresh his hand and put some stuff out. Oh, okay, that's going to hurt a lot. There is Raymond's second Ampharos Prime. So now every time Viktor puts an energy onto any of his Pokemon, he puts 2 damage counters on. That's quite heavy. That is very, very heavy. So there is the Outrage for 140 damage. Wow, leaving M-Ball with only 10 health. That's quite a knock. That Zekrom is as damaged as much as it can be to be alive. Viktor picks up his discard pile to see, okay, how many cards I've actually been through. Players can actually do this, and if they've built their deck a couple of times, they can actually say, okay, well, let me go through my discard pile and know what's left in my deck. What can I hope for? Maybe he picked up a card that would actually help him get something out of his deck, so he's wanting to see what he can do. That Buffalant is actually quite nice sitting there on the bench, because if this, well, he can't actually have anything being knocked out, because he actually should have pushed up his Buffalant the round before, because with Inferno Flandango, he could have actually put 2 energy on, and Buffalant could have done a serious amount of damage. Well, not that he needed it. He only needs to knock out Zekrom with another 10 health. But I think the game's over. I think Raymond's got this one, because he's only need 1 prize. He's got Typhlosion Prime, Ampharos Prime stuck up there. I really do think it's out. Viktor plays a switch to hide the M-Ball. Brings up a Zekrom who's got 20 damage on it, and Zekrom can't do anything. So there's an Outrage. I'm sure the game's going to go to Viktor, and round 4, table 1, is actually going to be Viktor. Viktor puts out another Zekrom. He plays a Juniper. Okay, he's trying to make sure that he has everything set up. The only thing not set up is his new Zekrom and his Ampharos non-prime. Other than that, he can do quite a bit. He shows Viktor his hand, I think. That's kind of odd. Don't think you're allowed to do that. And then Outrage, and there it is. Yeah, Raymond won this game. let's go on to round 5 and we'll see. Now it's on to top cut, so they're going to see who gets into the top cut, and let's go into those games.